Can a $22,000 watch really tell the story of the American dream? I didn't think so until I heard about Jacob & Co. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Epic X skeleton and exploring how this watch and the company that made it are embodying the spirit of America. Hi, I'm Joe with Exquisite Timepieces, and to talk about Jacob & Co., first we have to talk about Jacob. Jacob Arabo was born in 1965 in Uzbekistan, and he was the youngest of 5 children in his family. His interest in watches began at around the age of 13 when his father gifted him a 2-time zone watch that he still has to this day. Soon after, at 14 years old, he emigrated with his family to the United States where they lived in Queens, New York. To help support his family, Jacob enrolled in a 6-month jewelry making course where he left and went and found a job working with mass market jewelers creating pieces and earning $125 a week. During this time, he worked for other jewelers making pieces that he didn't want to make, and the entire time he would ask to use scraps from his leftovers and take home with him to make his own jewelry at home. After being tired of working for someone else and designing pieces that he didn't want to do, at the age of 21, Jacob founded his own company. He started Jacob & Company in 1986 and was eventually able to work his way into the 47th Street Diamond District in New York. The Diamond District in New York is full of other jewelers, and in order to stand out, he needed to make sure that his pieces were unlike anyone else's. People laughed at him. He mentioned on several occasions that a lot of the other jewelers in the Diamond District ridiculed him for what he designed and the things that he put in his window. However, it ended up paying off for Jacob as he garnered the attention of celebrities in certain cases. One of his most famous clients was the notorious B.I.G., otherwise known as Biggie Smalls. Biggie was actually the one that gave him his moniker that he's still known by today, Jacob the Jeweler. He would go on to spend about 14 years in the jewelry making industry before deciding to expand into a new venture, watches. In 2002, Jacob launched the 5-time zone. This watch was designed to honor his father and the watch that he gave him when he was 13. It had a 5-time zone layout in very bright and very distinct colors on the dial. You could have it as a 47mm or a 40mm. It was advertised as being a watch that transcended gender. It was designed for both men and women. You could have it with diamonds, fully iced out, or just the plain metal version. Jacob mentions that he struggled to find a Swiss manufacturer that would build a movement for him, and so he found a way to work around it and made the 5-time zone a quartz piece at launch, which was much easier to source the componentry for. The 5-time zone took off when famous model Naomi Campbell was pictured wearing the watch in a photo shoot. From there, several other major celebrities ended up wearing Jacob & Co. timepieces. Jay-Z famously wore one in his retirement concert in Madison Garden in 2003. The celebrities just kept piling on to the list of people that wanted a Jacob & Co. Not satisfied with the already successful 5-time zone piece, Jacob wanted to continue to push boundaries. So for about 8 years, the Jacob & Co. watch division went fairly silent for that time while Jacob was researching and learning to create even greater and even more extravagant timepieces. So now that we know a little bit about Jacob & Company and the way that it started, let's talk about the Epic X skeleton. So first, let's talk about why it's called the Epic X in the first place. From Jacob & Co.'s own website, they explain that the letter X is a mysterious concept. It's always symbolizing mystery and the unknown. The watch itself is fairly large at 44mm, but it's really not that heavy, being a titanium case and of course being skeletonized on the inside. It's also 13mm thick, which is, again, not bad for a 44mm watch. What's very interesting about the design is the fact that the lugs flow into the movement itself, creating that signature X shape that you see on the watch. As far as complications go, this is probably the simplest watch in Jacob & Co.'s lineup. It's just an hours and minute hand complication. There's no seconds hand, which I actually appreciate because I feel that a seconds hand would actually distract from the internals in the watch that you get to enjoy because there's nothing running in front of it, and it lets the balance wheel stand out a bit more. The watch itself has 48 hours of power reserve and 100 meters of water resistance. I think one of my favorite things about handling this watch is when I go to set the time, which, being a manual wind, if you leave it for a few days, you'll probably have to do that whenever you go to pick it up. But every time when you go to set it, you can see every individual gear that's responsible for making those hands move rotate with the hands. It's very unique, it's very cool to see, and it gives you an appreciation for a skeletonized watch. Another one of my favorite features on this watch is actually the strap. It's extremely supple, and what I think is really cool is the fact that they mimicked some of the skeletonization by integrating it into the strap. It just leads to an overall really light and really airy feel to the whole thing. Now, it's not cheap at $22,000, but compared to the rest of Jacob & Co.'s lineup, it is a pretty huge bargain. Most of their watches will end up being at least $300,000 to $400,000 in some cases, and some of them by custom order can exceed $1 million if you spec it that way. And once you know the backstory of Jacob and how he founded the company and built everything from the ground up, I think that the story ties into the experience of the watch, and it's great that you get a quality piece for what you pay. Now, here at Exquisite Timepieces, we are Jacob & Co. dealers. We just took on the brand this year, so if you're interested in one of these pieces, go ahead, feel free to email me down below or call us at the number in the description.